Hello bearded bee people, welcome back to B&K Bees for another episode of Random Inspection Friday. Today we're going to go through this one and I will kind of talk out loud or think out loud through my process. The general thought before getting into it is I'm checking for swarm cells, I'm checking for honey frames and removing honey from the brood area. If you only have one hive or limited amounts of hives, you should add another box if you're removing honey from the brood area and put it up above a queen excluder or just out of the brood area. But if I find some here and they're not ready for another box, I'll put it up above, a queen excluder on one of my other hives. Oh man, it's so hot that the hive tool and smoker are burning my fingers. I'm sweating my butt off. Okay, so I don't think it looked great last time I was in it. It certainly does not look great this time. Looks like they've confined themselves by a honey wall, which is a common thing, especially if you're doing splits in the middle of a nectar flow. If you set out a thin split, as the nectar's flowing, they'll start their buildup in one small area, and since one small area does not go throughout this whole box, they like to put on the perimeter of their brood area honey. And since it's usually on the perimeter of the brood area, the queen is not very likely to get to the other side of it. It's just not a natural evolutionary thing that she would be likely to do. So us as beekeepers, we have to be aware of that. Once again, especially if you're doing splits in the middle of a nectar flow. Splits that don't take up the entirety of the box you're setting out. But luckily, this was a cell starter not that long ago, or a cell builder. So they were in a 5-frame nuke, and then they had one of the cells that they created had to emerge and then go get mated and then start building the colony up. So it wasn't necessarily a split for the sake of splitting, but it was a split for the sake of making a comparison. Okay, so I am to the honey wall frame, and it is heavy. Boy, that's a heavy frame. Okay, so it wasn't completely a honey wall. As you see, there are quite a few brood cells there in the center. And on the other side as well. I think part of the problem was that this largely honey frame was right next to a blank frame, when I've got other drawn frames, 1, 2, 3, at least 4 of them, on the other side of it. So that was my mistake. I should have given them a contiguous line of drawn frames and then checkered in blank stuff later on when they were more able to handle it. But that's okay, that's what we're going to do right now. More than half of beekeeping is reading the situation and figuring out how to rectify it. It's not just setting bees out and letting them do their natural thing. Especially if we're making them do unnatural things, like splitting into other boxes in our yard, or put up honey in a specific area of a hive. Okay, so now I moved the honey frame off to the side. I'm going to utilize these drawn frames in the middle, depending on how many bees and how much brood I see over these other frames, which it looks pretty good, because even that heavy as heck honey frame had quite a bit of brood on it, and this is a solid brood frame. Similar story on the other side. So that is looking good. That is looking good. I'm gonna put an empty frame right there for you. Another set of brood that looks really super good. I don't know how well you guys can see that. It's a good looking brood frame with the capped brood that's ready to emerge and probably, you know, emerging as we speak. And then younger stuff in the center. And this is kind of more a menagerie. Either way, still a lot of brood. Okay, and then what's going on with this one? Gosh darn, it looks good. I've not seen the queen. To be honest, wasn't really looking for her. As soon as you see signs that that she's in there and doing what she should do, unless you're doing something specific with her, you shouldn't worry too much about finding her. Because finding her, you know, during the process of finding her, you can cause more problems than finding her will solve. So, seeing eggs all over the place and good looking brood frames is good enough for me. So I'm going to check her in one more good looking drawn frame here. Oh, I got stung. Thank you, lady. I appreciate that so much. A lot of you guys ask if I ever get stung. Sure I do. And any idiot working bees in shorts and a t-shirt is going to get stung from time to time, but I don't have any time for hot colonies, so we don't breed hot colonies. So for the most part, we've got some nice gentle bees. But even the gentlest of creatures has a limit. And I think we've reached that limit with this particular hive. Okay, so I rectified that situation. Now they're occupying, you know, 80% from here to here, and there's a whole line of nothing but drawn frames. The blank two are sitting right there, and I will checker those in as they fill out those blank ones that I just gave them. But you know, for a young colony, one that I've not gotten into too many times, that is it's looking pretty good. I'm happy with what I saw. So thanks for watching. Tune in next week. Hopefully we'll get another one out there. I know we haven't been super consistent, but hopefully the nuke season's done, so I'll have a little bit more time. But yeah, thanks for watching. Click like if you liked it. Click subscribe if you're not already. I'd greatly appreciate that. But otherwise, get out there and have some fun with your bees.